Can we have our next expert witness, please? Hello.
Hello.
Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Geraint Henderson. I was a stockbroker for 12 years and I've just written a book showing people what really happens in the city.
And you're going to show us a film about savings and pensions, yeah?
That's right, yes.
OK, let's see it.
Here in the city, there is a genuine crisis. I have never seen traders looking so glum. And if the banks are in crisis, you can bet it's going to be the customer next. Mark and Tony Cole had their house repossessed after they fell behind with their mortgage. Now they are living in a two-bedroom house with their 5 kids. But the pain hasn't stopped there. The bank have just closed their current account.
First time we knew that there was a problem with our personal accounts was both me and my wife put our cards into the cash point machines and both cards were basically taken by the machine, with a message on the screen saying refer to bank. My wife sat next to me.
The bank hadn't provided their mortgage, yet Tony and Mark say that being overdrawn by just £150 for 3 weeks was enough to lose their account.
I feel like we're lepers, like social lepers. Like, you have a bad time on one thing, and then it's like a domino effect. Everyone else is dumping on you, and they won't help you at all.
Their bank rejects the criticism, saying they took the decision to end the banking relationship after the Coles didn't respond to any of their attempts to contact them.
The lending landscape now is almost unrecognisable from where we were 15, 16 months ago. Then lenders were salivating to give you money, a mortgage, cheap credit cards, cheap debt. They were fighting for your business. Now, they're not quite as keen. They don't have the cash themselves. They're trying to cherry-pick the best customers who can still get competitive products. But now you need a bigger deposit on your mortgage if you want to get a cheap deal. You need to have a really good credit score if you want a cheap credit card.
Banks do want the customers who have cash, though, but many consumers are scared of putting their money into savings for risk of losing them if the bank goes belly up. Now, more than ever, the safest place for your money is in the bank. I believe there's absolutely no way the government would allow a retail bank to fail. But it's not as if that means all investors are safe. The real losers are those of us who rely on the stock market for our pension plans. As share prices fall, the situation becomes more and more dire for our pensions because so many are heavily invested in the stock market.
I think you can say that for people's pensions, it's quite a dire situation. And you've seen that with 1 million people pulling their money out of personal pensions over the last year, and a decline of probably around 20% in the value of pensions.
The recent decline in the stock market means that people who are planning to retire soon might find things aren't quite as comfortable as they'd previously hoped.
I'm 61 next month, so I could have retired from the police at 55, but I've worked on, try and build up my pension a bit more.
Robert Michael has been planning his retirement in Cyprus for 5 years.
I'm very concerned about what I've been hearing over the last few weeks, and I'm very concerned that my dream of going to Cyprus within a year and retiring, finally, you know, may still not, I might still not get there.
Actually, thanks to his careful planning and spreading the risk, things probably aren't that bad for Robert, and his retirement dream will still happen. And I believe long-term the market will bounce back, but many retiring in the near future would have reason to be very worried. There is no doubt that what we are witnessing is a huge banking crisis, the worst we have seen for decades. Recession is now inevitable, and that's merely confirmed by what we saw last week. Despite Friday's stock market bounce, I don't think this is over yet.
Can I just ask you the moral question, OK? What really disgusts a lot of people, and a lot of people think is immoral, is that incompetent, greedy bankers have been shielded from the consequences of their incompetence, right?
Yeah.
And we're all suffering from it. So how can we punish them, if you like, for their misdeeds if they do it again in the future?
This is the problem. I think we do need tighter regulation.
How do you do it, though? I mean, do you say you can't make more than 10 million a year, or do you ban certain sorts of financial dealings? What?
The problem is, if you start putting, limits on how much salary you can have, I'm afraid to say that places like Zurich or Paris or Frankfurt or even Dubai might take over London as a financial centre. And although we may hate many of the city boys for their excessive lifestyles and their vast salaries, they do bring in quite a lot of cash. They give us 12 billion.
I was going to say, I mean, whenever something like this happens, everyone wants to shoot the bankers. And there are some nasty, greedy bankers, but there's also some people who just try to do a reasonable job.
You say in your film that most people's savings are safe. Do you really think there is now absolutely no chance at all that any high street names will go bankrupt?
I really do believe that with 99.3% certainty that the government would not allow a high street bank to go bust. What we've seen has allowed to go bust was Lehman's, which was the fourth largest US investment bank. It's a different kettle of fish when you've got people's savings are the issue. And there will be a bailout of some kind were there to be a problem.
So it doesn't matter where you have your money in the UK, you're fine.
Essentially, the large UK banks are safe.
Okay, let's put our necks on the chopping block again. What's your prediction in a year's time for our savings and our pensions?
Our savings will still be completely safe where they are now. I'm not worried about that. Our pensions, I am worried about the stock market. I think they'll be worth significantly less than they are now.
For what it's worth, for my part, obviously I don't think a bank is going to go bust on the high street, so our savings are just completely safe. I completely disagree with you about pensions because they're based on the stock market, and in a year's time the stock market will have anticipated a recovery and I think will be 20% higher, therefore we'll all be saying, hey, fantastic, our pensions have gone up.
I think I'm going to go in the middle of you two. I'm going to say pensions probably about the same next year. I mean, the stock market often predicts things well before the recession coming, so we've fallen 25%, so maybe we'll be about the same. Savings, couldn't agree more. They'll be completely safe. There's no way that the government would let people lose their savings.
Phew. Geraint, thank you very much.
Thank you.
To finish with, Merrin, this has been unremittingly bleak and depressing. Can you say something that will at least send the people watching this programme away reasonably happy about the future?
The property crash is fabulous news for first-time buyers. They're falling very, very fast at the lower end of the market, and 2-3 years, and I think most people who want to buy a house will be able to afford one.
Richard?
I think one bit of good news is that when the times are tough, prices come down. Petrol prices, interest rate prices, maybe food prices, so that things might get a bit easier for people who are currently struggling.
All right, well, that's good. For my part, I just have a cliche, I'm afraid. They say it's darkest before the dawn, okay, and it's very, very dark now, which means that the dawn, i.e. good times, can't be too far away, presumably.
That is very optimistic.
Let's hope you're right.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a word of caution here. Remember, the opinions of our panellists and experts are just that, and you should always seek independent financial advice if any of the issues we've discussed affect you. There's more information on the website, itv.com/tonight. Coming up on Friday, Will Wars. Fiona Foster investigates why families are increasingly coming into conflict over who gets what after a loved one dies.
Are parents aware that they're going to leave children that they love with absolutely no rights whatsoever to do anything